Hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Tonight I'm going live using StreamYard, which I've never done before, so I'm excited. If you're new to using StreamYard, then you'll have to head over to streamyard.com/Facebook so you can give us permission to view your comments when you post a comment on this live video. Otherwise, we'll still see your comments. They just won't pop up live. And I'd love for you to be a part of this conversation tonight. So head on over streamyard.com/Facebook to give us permission there so we can see your comments as they come up. So if you're here joining us tonight, drop a comment, say hi, let us know you're here. We can't wait to get this conversation started. Awesome. So it's thunderstorming here where I'm at in Stratford. Fingers crossed my dogs sleep through it. And then our internet stays stable. So we're just going to keep wishing and hoping tonight. All right. So welcome, everybody. My name is Louise Belmont. I'm the co-owner of Red Pony Dog Training. We offer dog training and behavior services for people with dogs. I'm really excited to be here tonight to chat with you about off-leash dogs. It's a really important topic, and I really want to talk about why we should care about on-leash or off-leash greetings and why it matters. So first, I want to share with you guys a little bit about how I make those decisions for my dogs. So if you don't know me, I have, hey Laura, I'm so glad you're here. If you don't know me, I have two dogs. Their names are Manzo and Piper. They're both Australian cattle dogs. So Manzo has a very good recall. He has since he was a little puppy, but it's not 100%. I would give him, I was thinking about this earlier, trying to figure out what score I would give him. I'm going to say like a 96%. If we see deer, if we see literally any animal, we walked through a flock of turkeys the other day completely on accident. When we see wildlife, for the most part, he'll come right back to me. But if we see a dog, not a chance. There's no way he's coming back to me. Manzo is dog reactive and very sensitive around other people and dogs. So it would be unfair for me to expect him to be safe in that situation. So for that reason, I only let Manzo off leash on private property. So he gets to be off leash at home where we have lots of woods for him to run and explore in, or if we're in someone else's property. So like sniff spot, or if we're at a friend's house or something like that, where we know we're not going to see other dogs or people, that's where Manzo's going to be off leash. Piper, oh, where do I start? So Piper actually has a phenomenal recall now. It's been 11 years in the making, but she does really, really well. However, the few times she has not done well have been very traumatic for me and probably for her as well. So when Piper sees wildlife, I don't exist to her anymore. She'd be like, thanks for the great life, Ma. See you later. And we've done a lot of great work with predation training with her. She's so much better. But after having her slip her harness and take off one day in the woods and cross a busy road to make her way back home, I'm just not going to give her that opportunity to fail again. So for Piper, she only gets to be off leash when we're in secure, fenced in areas. So shout out to Sniff Spot. They're game changers for Piper. She really does enjoy roaming, but it's not worth her safety to give her that opportunity. So if you're joining tonight and you're watching from home, I'd love to hear in the comments how you make those decisions for your dog. Does your dog have an impeccable recall and you love letting them off leash? Do you just let them off leash when you think it's safe? Are you still in training? Let me know in the comments how you make those decisions for your dog. That would be really helpful. And throughout this whole presentation tonight, I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know your feedback, your thoughts, all of it, because this is a conversation. I know it's a live video, so I'm just talking at you, but feel free to be a part of it in the chat as well. And if you're catching on the replay, I'll be stalking the comments. So go ahead and drop your questions in, even if you're catching me on the replay. Okay, so let's get started. Before I jump into, again, really why you should really care for your own dog, I'm going to share a couple of stories that have been shared with me over the last couple of weeks. And this is just a really small snippet, a very small sample of the stories that I hear every single day from pet parents, just like you, who've experienced some scary things just out in the real world. So the first one is this. Our dog was attacked by an off-leash dog 3 years ago, and he has not been the same since. Another one. Big signs say all dogs must be leashed. Nope. A big lab came bounding towards my puppy. She froze and started to scream. Thankfully, my son intervened, but the damage was done. She's afraid of other dogs approaching her. A loose black lab circled us like a shark and ripped my greyhound side wide open. He needed 24 staples. The lab's owner was right there in the street. When we first adopted our dog, he was very fearful of other dogs. We brought him to our town beach, and some lady with 4 Bernese mountain dogs came up to us. None of her dogs were leashed. They swarmed my dog, and he was terrified. So I'm not trying to vilify people who let their dogs off leash or to terrify you to go out and enjoy the world with your dog. It's just really important that we consider the experience and the effects our behavior has on others, so that we can keep everybody safe. We only see the negatives, but we don't hear the stories of people who go for a WALK, can't say the real word. And it's perfectly pleasant, and people leash their dogs and they're friendly and there's no interactions that are traumatic, but there's still a great deal of them that are. So Lou says, we're in training, but I highly doubt my dog will ever be off leash other than in fenced in areas. And that's totally fine. We have to set our dogs up for success for what they need. And not every dog is going to be capable of being trustworthy and reliable off the leash. So those are just some stories. Set the stage. Hopefully I haven't terrified you guys too much. So let me dive deep here and let's take a deeper look at why this can be harmful for everyone involved. So first, we're going to look at this from the point of view of the dog who is leashed. So if you're out on a W, as I say, and your dog is leashed and you're walking them. So first of all, that dog is then forced to confront the oncoming dog, whether they wanted to or not. And it takes away all of their freedom and all of their ability to make choices. If that dog feels unsafe, they may feel like they need to defend themselves, which will probably lead to a dog fight, and that some human is going to get involved and probably hurt as well. Over time, when that dog walks, if they see another dog, they may anticipate a rushed and rude greeting, which is going to lead to anxiety, frustration, reactivity, and even aggression. I see this so often, you guys, like every day. Multiple times a day, I get calls from new clients whose dogs have experienced this very thing. And as a result, they now have a behavior problem. And these dogs may be working really hard on their training. And even a friendly dog rushing up to say hello can set them back quite a bit. It's also just not normal for dogs to greet frontally, right? And that's going to just further add to their frustration, their anxiety, their stress, all of it. So those are just a few things to kind of take a look at from the perspective of the leashed dog. So now let's take a look at it from the perspective of the dog who's off leash and approaching. They could get hurt just as easily. So you never know how that other dog is going to respond, or human for that matter. We do have the right to defend ourselves if we feel threatened. So they could get hurt. By allowing dogs to greet other dogs freely whenever they want to, you may be encouraging hypersocial behavior versus socially appropriate behavior. You run the risk of a dog who, when leashed, demands to greet all of their passing dogs that they see. I often see dogs that are reactive because of this very thing, that usually they walk off leash and they get to greet whoever they want, whenever they want. And on leash, that typical routine is restricted and it creates frustration. And it's just not normal, natural behavior. Also, if an off-leash dog isn't responding to your recall or your cues to return to them, and they get to say hello to dogs and people when they want, their recall will continue to diminish as they get reinforced for not listening to their owner's requests. So there's a lot of things to consider there, especially, again, going back to when I was asking you guys in the beginning, how do you decide if you let your dog off leash? Those are some key things to think about. And one of the, I think, most underlooked perspectives when having this conversation is looking at it from the point of view of the owner of the leashed dog. Guys, you never know what another person has experienced or been through. That pet parent may have had to break up a dog fight before, They may have even been bitten by a dog themselves. With or without a dog, having another dog approach can be so scary and threatening. If you guys are on my email list and you heard my story just last week, I was just going for a run in my neighborhood like I normally do when a very large off-leash dog came charging at me and chased me down the road. I could have very easily been bitten, and nothing happened. That dog was leaving its property and coming after me. It was very scary. Luckily for me, I could take my headphones out and handle the situation, but for someone who maybe didn't know what to do, it could have ended much, much worse. So what can we do? Well, first, I want to take a second and just kind of explain a little bit about leash laws, because I feel like those are pertinent to this conversation tonight. So we've talked about this a little bit on our page, and a lot of you guys have been great about sharing some information about your local towns. But I just want to remind you guys, New Hampshire does not have a leash law. So that means every town or city sets their own rules and regulations, and so do they on state-owned property. So, for example, the town I live in does not have a leash law. I know Manchester has a very strict leash law. Durham has a leash law. But places like state parks like Northwood Meadows and Pawtuckaway State Park require dogs to be leashed at all times. I don't have to ask you guys if you've ever been there. I promise if you've been there, you've seen an off-leash dog. And that's in violation of the guidelines that have been set for those parks. And they're there for a reason. That being said, leash law or not, the state of New Hampshire does have a dog nuisance law or dog control law. I'm going to read a little bit from that. If you guys are interested, just drop a comment and I'll send you the link to the state laws in the comments later. So a dog is considered to be a nuisance, menace, or vicious to persons or property if they kind of fall into the following conditions. If it growls, snaps at, runs after, or chases any person not on the premises of the owner or keeper. So meaning if you're not on your own personal property. If it runs after or chases bicycles, cars, motorcycles, or anything on wheels going down a sidewalk or a roadway. And if, whether alone or in a group of other dogs, it bites, attacks game animals, domestic animals, so that's other dogs, or human beings. So I can think of several of those stories I just read you earlier where pet parents were unknowingly letting their dogs violate these rules and laws that have been put in place to keep everybody safe. And again, I just want to remind you guys, because this is such a heated topic, I'm not trying to vilify people who let their dogs off leash. I love nothing more than being in the woods with Manzo off leash. There's something really like amazing and gives you a great opportunity to connect with your dog when you can connect and communicate with them when you're untethered. I don't know. If you take your dog off leash, you know what I'm talking about. It's like magical. I love doing it. It's my favorite thing. But we have to consider the safety, both physical and emotional, of everyone around us when we go and take our dog to public places. I'm just going to see if I can pop this comment up here. Laura says, I definitely have PTSD from past dog fights. Willow does well at a distance, but not when rushed. And unfortunately, I can't trust that others will follow the rules. And it's not fair that her dog can't go out and have the rest of the experiences that we all get to have. So we want to keep that in mind. Okay, so what can we do? And what should we do? Aside from just educating other people on trail etiquette, so shameless plug, we do have a blog post up about trail etiquette in general, which is such a good thing to share just to educate people, because if they don't know better, how are they expected to do better? So just having some guidelines set forth about what is appropriate behavior when you're on a trail. When should you leash a dog? What should you bring with you? Should you have a leash with you? Those kinds of things. Trail etiquette can be really helpful. So aside from that, what can we do? I recommend learning how both you and your dog can stay safe when around other off-leash dogs. Guys, I have just the thing for you. So you've probably heard me talk about this already. So if you join me for our webinar upcoming next week, we're going to be talking all about how to handle off-leash dogs. So in this trainer, we're going to be talking about how to identify red flag behaviors from other dogs. So for me, when I go out with Piper, it's really important that if she is around and meets another dog, that I feel like that dog is friendly, because some dogs just aren't. And if that dog's off leash, I need to be more protective of Piper so that I can keep her safe and myself safe. So we're going to be talking about how to identify some of those behaviors. We're going to talk about how you can teach your dog to feel better about seeing other dogs, because if you fall into the category of what we've been talking about and your dog has been charged by an off-leash dog, they probably have some trauma from that. And it's hard, but there's some things that we can do to help them feel safer and feel like they can trust going for walks with you again. So we're going to talk about some of those steps and training games that you can practice with them. And we're going to talk about how you can keep yourself and your dog safe. We have tried and true tactics that have worked for Manzo and Piper and so many of our clients. We can't wait to share them with you. So tonight, you can head over to bit.ly/offleashdog. So I just popped up the link on the banner. This is new tech, so I'm like, this is fancy. I hope I'm doing it right. So if you sign up for our webinar by the end of the weekend, so by Sunday night, and you can use code FBLive, you'll get $5 off. If you can come live for the webinar, that's awesome. If you're not going to be available when we're hosting the webinar live, that's okay. You're still going to get the recording of the webinar, and you'll still have opportunities to reach out and ask questions. So if you guys have any questions about what that training is going to be about, feel free to just pop it in the comments. I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys have tonight about that. And if you're watching on the replay, same thing. Like I said, I stock comments. It's like what I do. So I'll be here to answer any questions you guys have. You know, I remember I was going for a walk in Nottingham with my sister and my dog Piper, and someone was jogging with an off-leash dog, and I had my tools ready to keep her safe and to train with her to help her feel comfortable. And I'm really glad I did, because it went really well. And it takes a lot for me to take my dogs into a public place, because there's so many unknowns out there, and it's hard for me to trust other people and to trust that I can keep my dog safe. And at the end of the day, that's what's most important to me, is the ability to keep my dogs safe, both from physical harm and emotional harm as well, because I want to make sure that they feel comfortable. All right, you guys, that's all I have for you tonight. So again, if you head over to bit.ly/offleashdog, you can use code FBLive to save $5. That code expires Sunday evening. I'd love to see some of you there. I'd love to teach you guys how you can help protect your dogs, yourself, from the onslaught of off-leash dogs. And I'd love to keep the conversation going. If you guys have any questions about the rules in your town, I'd be happy to help you find that. If you guys have any questions at all, drop it in the comments, and I'll catch you guys in the comment section later. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys all have a great night, and I'll see you next time. Take care.